Welcome. My name is Natalie Campbell-Reid. I'm one half of the London Property Siblings, and I'm joined today by Sam Norris, mortgage broker at Bond Finance. And as I am crowning him today, social media guru and personal branding whiz. So you can totally take that, Sam. You can totally roll with that.
I'm happy with that. I got tagged on a post the other day, which was absolutely ridiculous. That somebody said that I was the next Gary V, and I said, I was like, I mean, I'll take that, 100% take that, but I think I might have a little way to go. Yeah. No, I haven't got any stock in TikTok, so I'm not I'm not quite there yet. But I'll take anything I can get.
Just don't buy the New York Jets. That would be.
No, I think I told you last time we spoke. Saracens. I'm going to buy Saracens one day. That's my long-term objective.
So the whole point of me and Sam getting together on this was to talk about growing your brand online. I'm actually a professional marketer, and what that means is I help businesses generate awareness around their products and service, or generate leads or contacts. In the current climate that we're in, obviously, I know there's a lot of people in property who would have depended on events to find new relationships and contacts and generate more awareness around what they do. So in a time where person-to-person interaction is really limited, what can you do? And Sam is someone who I've seen offline. So I've seen him at events giving talks, and I've also seen him really engaged on social media. He's just someone I really respect in terms of how they've gone about building their personal brand with kind of authenticity and integrity at the forefront. So Sam, I'm just going to kick back to you to tell the people who you are and what's your experience in property.
Yeah, so thanks, Natalie, and thanks for inviting me to have a lovely chat with you this morning. So my name's Sam Norris. I have been a property finance broker for, I think, 12 or 13 years. I got like a memory on my Facebook pop up the other day of me saying, "Hooray, I've passed my CMAP exams," and I can't remember how many years ago, but it was a lot. And I say property finance broker because people think of mortgage brokers and they think of those guys that sit at the back of estate agents annoying people, and that has been me in the past, but it's certainly not anymore, because I just help property investors and property developers, as you know, Natalie, because obviously we met at a property event. And yeah, I've just spent probably the last 6 or 7 years of my career focusing on that, and really getting to grips with property strategies and understanding sort of things from the eyes of my clients. So trying to be more than just a broker, but actually help them in strategizing, and also helping them build a power team, which I think is massively important as well. So that's kind of my background. Have developed a little bit as well. So I've been on the other side of the fence, and yeah, more recently, certainly the last couple of years, have been really focusing on trying to, I suppose, if you say purposefully build a personal brand online, it comes across a bit egotistic. I wanted to find a way of just getting, I suppose, my message to the types of clients I wanted to work with more, and I've kind of been working on that for the last couple of years, quite obsessively. So it seems to be doing okay so far.
Yeah. So I know, Sam, one of the things people struggle with when it comes to taking that leap to building online is really just even knowing where to start. And so I wonder how obviously your background is in property finance, but how did you even make that transition from maybe even just, I don't know if you were just doing offline or if you were just doing events and working the event circuit, and then decided to move online? What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, do you know what? It was, for the longest time, there wasn't really any strategy behind it, if I'm completely honest. As time goes on and you realize that there is strategies that you can follow, and there's things that you can learn, and you can mold different people, little aspects of different people's strategies into your own, and formulate something that works for you. Really, at the beginning of things, I was one of those guys that I've always been pretty social. I quite enjoy other people's company, which is weird because I'm an only child, and usually only children like to just sit in their room on their own and play computer games, but that's never been me. And as a mortgage broker, at the start of my sort of career, you're really, I don't want to say forced, because it sounds like someone's got you at the end of a sword, but you're really, really pushed to go to a lot of sort of industry events, because you need to do your CPD, you need to be learning, and you need to go to these day events where you've got various different lenders and insurance providers up on stage talking, and so I think most people that work in my industry are quite well versed in going to events. And what I sort of say was always my worst mistake in networking and marketing, really, was that I put so much time and effort in my early career into going to these events because I thought it was going to really benefit my career. And what I actually realized was, why would I spend so much time going to events and networking with people that do the same job as me? It's good to do it occasionally because it's nice to mingle with these sorts of people and get their ideas and hear their experiences. But ultimately, you've got to be mixing with the people that you want to actually do business with. And that was kind of the first stage for me, starting to go to some of these events. And I remember going to an event in Wembley that was a sort of a landlord's event, and being completely like a rabbit in the headlights, and just thinking, what am I doing here? How am I going to speak to people? And I just thought, look, nobody knows who you are here. So if you make a complete balls up of this, and a complete fool of yourself, no one's going to remember you anyway. So I just started going up and talking to people. And what I realized was I came away from that, and that midnight, I remember I had to get a bus home because I missed the last tube. And and I just thought, do you know what? I got a load of cards and stuff, and I got some of mine, but I just had a really good time talking to people about property because it was just really interesting. And sort of fast forwarding from there, I sort of thought, well, I've enjoyed doing that so much, and I started to go to more of these events, and I thought, actually, I really enjoy just engaging with property related people. If I get business out of it, great. But if I don't, it doesn't matter, because I've still learned something. Somebody still asked me a question, and I can go, okay, landlords are thinking about this, investors are thinking about this, I should be thinking about this. And then that sort of then slowly went into kind of what I do on social media, is that I do think about the questions that my investors are asking, and try and find a way of answering them, and try and put that content out in the best way I possibly can on the right platform. And I started off absolutely dreadfully, because the first things I thought was, okay, well, my audience obviously want to be rich, so how can I show them how to be rich? Well, I wasn't rich, and I still don't consider myself rich. It's a bit of a weird thing to be preaching about, but I kind of, my first foray into sort of using YouTube, which was kind of the first channel that I started posting on quite frequently, was doing a thing called what did I call it? The 6-figure journey was my first little thing that I started, which was ideas on how to build up a cash pool of 100 grand basically. And I did all right. Like, I made a little bit of money because I was like testing some things out and some little side hustles, and what I didn't like and what I did like. And actually what I realized was the best hustle was actually my day job, which was advising people on their mortgages. That made me the most money, and it was the thing that actually gave me the most satisfaction. So I kind of put that to the wayside and started concentrating a lot more on, I started thinking about what other people wanted to know rather than what I wanted to tell them, which is actually, it's just such a huge light switch to be turned on. And I think it's what a lot of people get wrong when they're trying to sort of promote themselves on social media, if you want my opinion. So that was it. That was kind of the trigger for me. And it's kind of, I suppose, gone on from there to me being just a tad obsessed with using social media ever since.
You said a lot in there actually, which I want to backtrack on and dig out a bit. So even when you were talking about going to, initially you were just in the circuit of other mortgage broker, property finance people, and actually that wasn't serving you. And one of the big things, I mean, when we're back in the space when we can go to events, is property investors often also do the same thing. They'll only go to property investment events. And actually, it's kind of like, well, maybe you should look at, particularly if you're trying to raise other sources of money, maybe you should go to an angel investor event, or maybe you should go to a business networking event. spread your pool of events. Maybe you might even want to go to events in other countries because they may be looking for ways to put their cash into the UK. And people don't often burst outside of their own bubble, so to speak. So it really does limit who you know in that sense. But yeah, I
Absolutely.
really
And
want to touch back on
actually
that.
yeah, that an amazing point. And actually just quickly on that as well, is that I think you have to mix with the kinds of people that you really want to mix with as well, because you don't want to do business with people that you don't want to do business with. It's really obvious. And what I found is, because of how my career kind of progressed, when I look back on it, you know, going back 10 years or so, I really pushed into like the sort of the high net worth kind of part of the market. So a lot of these events I was going to that were, you know, private bank events, and you know, there's some great people, and I've got some friends that still work at some of these private banks that I used to do quite a lot of business with, which I don't do as much business with anymore, just because they don't serve my clients, you know, the way they used to.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to stick out like a sore thumb. I'm not a high net worth style person, you know. I don't have a double barrel surname, and I've worked for a couple of companies in the past where that's really their bag. And there was one in particular, one company, I won't mention what company it was, but you know, they made me feel like I was sort of the runt of the litter. You know, I was ridiculed constantly for basically, it's like, oh, you're from North London, you know, make sure you take your stab vest on your way home, you know. And you know, I know it was all office, you know, bit of chat and banter and stuff, and I loved it, but it was very much, I was such an outsider. And that it's hard to do business in those that kind of environment, because it does, you know, if you do have a crap day, and everyone in business has a crap day, it just adds to that. So I think, you know, the networking aspect is also about trying to find groups of people that you really resonate with and really want to work with. And I think, you know, for me, I find that property people are generally really quite cool and down to earth on the whole. And so when I started going to property related events, I was like, oh, I'm home. You know, these people are from the same side of the track as me, you know, and I could really have decent conversations with them without having to second guess everything that I was saying. And I felt really free in terms of how I was communicating with them. I wasn't thinking, you know, have I got add in a particular, you know, type of word that makes me sound cooler than I am, and you know, have I got to act in a certain way, you know, have I got to say yar instead of year, you know, that kind of thing. and yeah, just felt really at home. So for me, you know, the thing is marketing yourself can be hard if you make it. And I think if you just surround yourself with the right people, you don't really have to put that much effort into marketing yourself, because you get excited to talk to people about stuff. Showing excitement and enthusiasm for something is the best, you know, marketing you can do, because people want to work with people that are enthusiastic about the same things they are.
Passion sells. So it's kind of just like,
100%.
if you're really passionate about something, someone will feel that energy from you. But you also talked about, so on the back of the event, you talked about how, like, collecting business cards that particular evening when you were out. And I find this is something that we all do. We all go to events, we all collect business cards, but we may not be so great at following up with those people.
Absolutely.
So I guess in a time of only online activity, or non-face-to-face activity, I found that going back through that kind of Rolodex of business cards has been really useful way of just reigniting conversation with people and finding out what it is they do. How can you possibly help each other out? Is there any kind of synergy there? But yeah, I think that's one kind of takeaway that I had, and especially, you know, just not having had the time before.
Well, Joe, you can take that to the next level as well, because look, business cards are great. I read a book called The Sell by Frederick Erkland, who is a real estate broker in New York. And apparently he's the number one. Apparently he's on some show called The $1 Million Listing or something like that. But I've never watched, but the book is amazing. Really, really, really interesting book. And he says he doesn't have business cards because he thinks email is a much better way. He just says, like, what's your email? And then he just sends them an email that says, let's connect, with, you know, with all the details on the bottom. and actually they're clickable, so people can actually go, oh, let's check out his
Mm.
Facebook, or let's check out this thing that this I've got at the bottom of my email signature a link to the latest video that I've done on YouTube that I think is going to be interesting, that sort of stuff. So I do, I've got business cards, I give them out. I often forget them because they're not the top of my list. So I often have other business cards. But, at the moment, lots of people are spending lots of time on social media. And, if you open someone's Instagram account, guess what's at the top of their account? It's basically a business card. It doesn't necessarily have their name it always has their name. Doesn't necessarily have their phone number on there, but it has a thing called message, So what I don't understand, and what I do a lot of, and I want to do more of it, is, if someone follows me on Instagram or Twitter or whichever platform it is, guess what's the first thing I do? I send them a message. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for following me. What is it that you do? Or if it's really obvious, because I've checked out their profile, what they do, I'll say, oh, I see you're into rent to rent. How's that going? I know the market's struggling a little bit at the moment. How are you finding things? And guess what? Most of the time they respond. And, I'm not saying that that a lot of the time I won't go, we'll be chatting away and something will come up and I go, oh, I've actually done a video about that, or I've actually had a podcast episode it will be really interesting for you, and chuck them over a link. Why not?
Yeah.
But a lot of the time we just have these conversations, and what people don't realize, not getting into the technicalities too much of social media, but if you're direct messaging people and they're responding, that's really highlighting to that platform that you're active, and that the two of you are active with one another. And so that person is much more likely to actually see the stuff that you're posting as well. So, it has a double benefit, but, we call it social media now, but originally it was social networking. That's what it was called. It was a social network. And this is what we should be doing now, utilizing that to the best of our ability in creating these online networks of people that, people are on their phones a lot more at the moment because they're sitting at home not doing much. So they're on their phone, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're on social media. Take advantage of that, send them a message. The amount of people, I've got someone coming up on my podcast on Friday that I reckon before the coronavirus, if I'd sent them a message and said, would you like to be on my podcast? They would have gone, pfft. But now they're saying, yeah, okay, because maybe they don't have as much time on their hands. And that's great. You have access to people. We've never had this before. So utilize it. And I think that's such a major thing, is that people think, well, that sounds pretty time consuming. It's like, well, yeah, it is, but it's worth it. So do it.
Yeah. I completely agree. What I wanted to kind of to pull out is how has your kind of commitment to posting content online helped you in your business? So obviously I've seen you speak at events, but I've also seen you be really actively engaged across many social media platforms. So how's that actually translated for you into actual business?
Hugely. I get more inquiries than anyone else in my company put together, probably. And that's not bragging, it's just me telling you the truth. It's, but I didn't go into this with that as the sole intention, or to be honest with you, pretty much any intention. I've always loved media in general. I think I've said on another podcast that I was at Sado at university that carried a camera around with them constantly, because I just liked recording stuff and editing stuff. And I created a little YouTube show when I was at university that I've tried to search for it. I cannot find it on YouTube, so it must have gone into their archive or something. Probably only got like 7 views. But I did like 5 or 6 episodes of that. And then when I went to university again, I did a master's and I did a radio show, won a National Student Radio Award. So I've always loved that. So, that's cool. But I think what it is that I like having conversations with people. I like talking about property, and my head's pretty busy. And so social media for me is an outpouring as well. When I have an idea, I film it and I let people see it. And I think because I don't sell on social media, I think this is the key. This is the thing that people forget is, people don't scroll down their Instagram feed or their Facebook feed to be sold to. That's an interruption. You're getting in the way if you're trying to sell to them. they're there to be entertained, and they're there to get knowledge. They're the two things that people go onto social media for, really, in general. And so you need to be part of that. And I think when I stopped being, and I was saying earlier about these videos I used to on YouTube, they're very formal. I was, tried to almost, I wasn't scripting it, but I was trying to like keep to a bit of a particular tone. Now I don't care. I'm just myself. I'm in a hoodie. I'm not in a shirt and tie. I'm in a Metallica t-shirt or something like that. And I'm just myself. I'm talking about stuff I'm interested in. If I swear, I swear. I'm just myself. And the impact that has had over time on the business that I've been able to do and the inquiries that I get off the back of it has just been incredible. And the other thing that I didn't even think about was, if you create kind of an expert feel to what you're doing, you are the man or the woman to go to for a particular bit of advice about something. Not only do people actually appreciate your time when you give it to them? This has always been a strange thing for me, because in my job in finance, I always say in the league table of boring, we're only beaten by tax and insurance. So it's quite hard sometimes to get people's time. When if I do like mastermind tables at certain events, it used to be really hard for me to get a full table, because guess what? There was someone over there talking about lease options. Well, lease options are a hell of a bit more sexy than mortgages, I can tell you that. So, it's hard sometimes to get people's attention when you're talking about stuff that they don't really want to talk about. But I was actually getting to the point, because I'd shown just my true self across social media, and people had maybe seen me on a video here and see the posts I've done there. They've started to get a bit of trust. They valued the time that I was then giving them. They saw value in it, and they gave me the time, and they actually were starting to take my advice, which was, that any mortgage broker would tell you is one of the most annoying things in our job, is that clients just don't take your advice, which is really frustrating. But also, when I wasn't selling to them, they were like asking me to be part of my family, be part of my team. Can I actually, will you be my broker? I'm like, yes, I will. I will definitely be your broker. Wow. They see it as kind of like a weird. Yeah, it's really weird. And I've even had a few messages now, and this is crazy. And if you're watching or listening to this, please never do this to me, because it really embarrasses me, because I'm quite I get embarrassed when people are nice to me. Is that they're like, oh, do I qualify to be one of your clients? I'm like, qualify? This isn't the European Championships. Come on, it's like, yes, of course. You're like, I mean, look, we'll see if we work together. And there are times when I've turned clients away because we can't work together, and that's a lovely position to be in. But no, don't ask me if you qualify to be my client. But this is the kind of level, and bearing in mind as well, it's not like I've got millions of followers. It's not like my posts reach hundreds of thousands of people. I've managed to build a successful business of lead generation on the back of a relatively small following, and that's why although it's been really weird the last couple of days that the number of extra followers I've had on Instagram has gone through the roof. I don't know why, but I mean, followers are lovely, and they're quite an ego boost, but ultimately it's the quality of what you're doing. And if you have a really engaged following, the business is insane. And this is what I talk to some of my social media clients, because I mentor people on their social media now, which I really love. Is I'm saying don't worry about the number of followers that you've got. Yes, there are certain targets that you want to achieve to reach certain things on certain platforms that open up options, like you can monetize your YouTube, I think, at 1,000 subscribers, and you can choose your own URL at 100 subscribers or something. You can do swipe ups at 1,000 followers on your stories on Instagram. Those sorts of things are great, and maybe aim for those reasons, but don't do it just for an ego boost. This is about engaging with a community here, and engaging with people, and wanting people that actually enjoy your content. It's much better to have 500 likes when you've got 1,000 followers than 1,000 likes when you've got 10,000 followers. You know, from an algorithm perspective, that looks better, and also from your own perspective, that should look better. You know, 50% of your followers like what you're doing. That's really, really good. That's better than 10%. So, you know, I think that's the key. Really, is you know, put out content that people actually are going to enjoy, and then off the back of that, the side effect of that is that your business will flourish, you know, and that's, I think that's what people get wrong. They go in for they try and score the goal too early, and they're maybe a couple passes away. That's the analogy I would use anyway.
And I think you touched on something really important there about saying that it's kind of over time. So it wasn't like you put out one YouTube video and then suddenly it was like, oh, glory, success. And I think some people get disheartened with social media because there is no kind of quick road to success. So do you know how long it kind of took for you kind of just going on social media before you started to see any real results?
Yeah, well, it's been, there's a few little markers. So it's been about 2 years since I started posting stuff on YouTube. And then in January of 2018, I did a course online with an American company, not to do with social media actually, but an aspect of it was driving traffic to a website. And that's where they taught you a lot about the difference between organic and paid traffic through social media. And that's when really they set a task where you had to do a live Facebook video every single day for 30 days. And I didn't actually do that. I didn't actually do 30 in a row. At the time I was quite embarrassed about doing it, so I wouldn't do it at the weekend if like the wife was around, because I think she'd think I was an absolute idiot. I still think she thinks I'm an absolute idiot for doing these things. I ordered a T-shirt with my podcast logo on it yesterday, and she rolled her eyes. So I know her opinion on it. Yeah, I got to that sort of that point, and I think it was at that point I realised that I needed to take it more seriously. So realistically, it's been kind of 14 to 18 months of trial and error across various platforms. And look, I'm by no means a master at any particular platform. When I've taken on clients where I've been teaching them what I know, I realize that I know probably more than a lot of people do. But you know, this is why it's not an overnight thing, because if it is an overnight thing, then I think there's an element of luck to it, because you probably have just, for whatever reason, just smacked out a bit of content that's really resonated with all the people that are watching it. You've done it exactly the right time, completely by fluke, and it's just, you know, it's gone through the roof. For most people, you know, it's not actually just about in your head thinking, right, you know, what's the perfect bit of content I can put out there? Yes, there's an element of that, but to truly know whether what you're doing is working, you've got to do it, and you've got to tweak it, and you've got to try new things. And you know, I've tried various different even stupid things like color schemes and fonts and different types of content that I'm putting out. You know, are photos better than videos? Are videos better than written? Are written better than photos? You know, I'm constantly trialing all that stuff and seeing what works and what doesn't. You know, should I be concentrating more on stories rather than main feed stuff? And, you know, should I be using my Facebook page and then repurposing content onto something else? You know, is LinkedIn the thing to do? Is TikTok the thing to do? You know, and I'm constantly, you know, retrialing and retesting and redoing things. And I think that's where people get unstuck, is when they don't see results pretty much straight away, they get disheartened, when actually, it takes time. And you know, I'm a great believer in what's managed gets, is it what's measured gets managed? What's measured gets managed is the phrase. And you know, but to measure anything, you need to actually have something to measure. You know, you need to have lots of content. You need to have some stats. You know, you need to go onto your Instagram and turn on business page so that you can get the analytics. You need to check the analytics on your Facebook page, your YouTube page. You know, see when people or see what people are liking and what people aren't, and do more of that. And that takes time and effort as well. And then once you've got that, you know, so once you've got, you know, a certain number of posts, you can then go in and do that, and you can see it over a period of time, and then you can then manage that information that you've measured, and you can improve. And that's the whole point of this. So I always say to people, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said, I've not really used LinkedIn because I don't really know what to post, and I want it to be specific for that platform. And I said, don't worry about that at the moment. Just start posting. Organic reach on LinkedIn is insane at the moment. Just literally, if you just copy and paste everything that you post on Facebook, yes, it's not the best, but who cares? You're getting something out there. And then after a month of doing that, you can check back and go, right, okay, which were the top of all the posts that I put on there? Which was the top 5? Which are the top 5 that did well? Because then you're going to understand yourself, okay, because people say, you need to be native to a platform. I think you do, but there's lots of crossovers, particularly between Facebook and LinkedIn at the moment. And, so something that works on Facebook will probably work on LinkedIn as well, but some stuff won't. So then by just literally repurposing all that content onto LinkedIn, you've got something to then look at and measure and make a decision on as to what actually works and what doesn't. And then you take of those 25 posts or whatever, you take those 5 at the top and you go, right, these are the ones that are working. So I'm just going to do more of this type of content for LinkedIn. And it's as simple as that to start out with. Yes, you can dive down the rabbit hole as much as you possibly can and want to. But ultimately, to start off with, it's just about creating something to actually be able to check and test and work. People are too scared that the first post they do has to be viral and be perfect. Doesn't by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. And I've wanted to find out, so you work full-time, you have a full-time job, but you also invest a lot of time in building your presence on social media. And one of the things people always say is they can't find the time, they don't have the time to do this. It's just too time consuming. So how have you been able to, I guess, work it in and around your day job?
Yeah, I do work it in and around my day job. I try, and if I have an idea for something, I write it quickly down on my notes section on my phone so I don't forget it. If I've got a break in my day, then I might go and say, right, look, I've got half an hour now. I had that idea for a video. I'm just literally going to take my phone next door into one of the meeting rooms. I've got a little tripod at work. I'm just going to quickly record a little live video on Facebook. I'll save it and then I'll figure out what to do with it later. And I've got a piece of content that's just gone out on Facebook then. And if it gets a load of likes, I know that it's going to be good. So maybe I'll share that onto YouTube at a later date. I might rip the audio and turn that into a podcast then, if it works, So I think it's just about doing what you can when you can. I get up an hour earlier than I would normally have to. And I sit on my phone in bed for an hour, putting drafts of posts together that I can then just press play on later in the day. I reply to messages. I always reply to pretty much every message, every comment that I get on any post across any platform. I reply to, even if it's just some bot that's put us a couple of smiley emojis. I will respond with a few smiley emojis myself. It's just it shows engagement, and it shows the algorithms, as I said, that people are posting. Your own comments on your own posts still count as comments. So I'm doing that, or I'm DMing people, and then I do the same at night as well. If I'm on a tube going into London, I'm doing the same. But I also, when I'm working, document. If I'm sitting there and I'm doing a bit of research for a client and it's particularly tricky, then boom, phone up. I might do a quick TikTok video because it's 60 seconds max. So I have to condense that. So I have to be succinct. I have to get the information there nice and quickly. That gets saved automatically. I might share that to my stories on Instagram as well. If it does well, and lots of people view it and I get engagement off of it, then I might go, actually, do you know what? I'll share that as an actual post, and you get a little video post. As well, which is why I try and make the captions on my TikTok videos sort of more towards the middle. So in my mind, I'm thinking I could use that as an Instagram post if I wanted to at some point in the future, or put it on, on Facebook or whatever, or even on Twitter. I still use Twitter loads. People think that it's old hack now, but I love it. So the time thing, it can be time consuming. You can create shortcuts. I certainly think that you should put the time and effort into it. You've got 2 full days on the weekend to look at this kind of stuff. And I'm not suggesting you need to do 12 hours a day on the weekend, but a couple of hours sitting there just learning the ropes and testing things out and putting a schedule together of the posts that you're even going to do for the rest of the week is something that you could make use of during a weekend time. So there is always time, because other people can do it, so can you. Everyone's got exactly the same amount of time. It's just what you do with it. And I think time is often the excuse, but I think it's a poor one. What they actually mean is, I don't want to give the time to this because I don't see it as something that's going to be important to my business, I think is actually what they're saying when people say that. Because I work, as we were saying before, I can sometimes work 12-hour days, 13, 14-hour days in my day job, but I still have time to post frequently, and hopefully what is good quality content that people want to watch. So if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah, and I am entirely guilty of this. I mean, I was working full time before getting furloughed, and since being furloughed, I've been doing a lot more on social media, and I've actually realized, oh, this is really easy. Like, it doesn't take as much time as I thought it was going to take. And sometimes it's kind of like, because I've done this for businesses, but I've never had to do it for my own business. And in your head, it's kind of like, it's a much bigger thing than it needs to be. It's kind of like, actually recording a 5-minute video, it's not going to take you a massive amount of time.
Yeah. And the thing is, once you've made that 5-minute video, it's like, you know, that situation where you're having a conversation with somebody and you go, and afterwards you go, oh my God, I said something really cool to that person, like a really good line.
Yeah.
And I wish I could remember what it was. Well, guess what? Like, you've just videoed yourself. So chances are that you'll be able to like go back and see some of those one-liners that really worked. And you can just like go and edit that and turn that into like a quick 30-second video that you could put on Instagram, or if it works, put it on LinkedIn or something like that, or Twitter, or you put it on all of them, you know. And so one piece of 5-minute content of you just sitting talking about, you know, something that's relevant, actually you could probably turn into 2 or 3 short 30, 40, 50-second videos that you could put elsewhere. Or like me, sometimes I'll say something that I think, oh yeah, that sounded pretty cool actually. I will just create like a visual post on that. You know, I use Canva, which is really easy to use. I slap a background on it, you know, make it brand colors, put the line on there, maybe a little picture of myself so people can recognize that it's me if it's shared. And then I write a quick comment, you know, a caption next to that picture on Instagram or Facebook, just highlighting, you know, what I meant by saying that. So by doing one piece of 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7-minute content as a video, a live video on Instagram, a live video on Facebook, for example, that can be used across multiple platforms, and actually and create multiple pieces of content. And I think people forget that as well. They think everything has to be completely individual when it doesn't. And you can reuse content as well. You know, I've done that before, because not everyone, you know, new followers might not see some of the old content that you've done, you know, a year ago, but it's still relevant today. Or, you know, sometimes I shared a video that I put out about valuations going into this coronavirus, and I shared it again recently, saying, here's a video that I put out, you know, 4 weeks ago, you know, with my predictions of what was going to happen with mortgage valuations. What, you know, did I get it right? So I've already shared that, but I've shared it again, and in a completely different way. So you know, I think, yeah, there's so much you can do to make it as easy as you want, basically.
Yeah. And I want to wrap up, but before I do, I kind of want to go back into the engagement piece. So obviously you talked about responding to comments, responding to messages from people on social media as well. And I see that you're actively engaging with other posts. So it's not even just about posting out your own content. And I think people do get wrapped up in that, but especially if you're looking at generating leads, it's so important to find other people, search hashtags. We were talking about this in our last conversation, is LinkedIn's a searchable platform, YouTube's a searchable platform. So use relevant hashtags and then go through them, trawl through them, comment on other people's posts. People will reply to you. follow them or become friends with them, whatever the situation. And that way you're building your contact list. And that's something I've seen you do as well, Sam.
Yeah, do you know what? It's almost comes full circle back to what we were talking about right at the beginning, talking about actually physical networking is going to the networking events that you want to go to because people are having the conversations that you want to be part of. Well, guess what? On social media, you can search for the conversations that people are already having about what you want to talk about. So anyone can do this. No one wants to be part of it. I did this for ages. When I first was hearing about, you need to engage. I was just like trawling through Twitter and just commenting on stuff that I was like, oh yeah, I really agree with that. That's really good. It's like, why am I don't care about Forex trading. Why am I commenting on that? Oh yeah, it's a really great platform. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is. But for me, if I want to engage with property people and my particular knowledge base allows me to engage and add quite a lot of value talking about finance. So I go through Facebook groups, I go through, Twitter feeds, I go through LinkedIn, and I just search for, mortgages, UK property, property investors, UK. And I see, recently, I did a massive thing where I was trying to really, really get people to understand that mortgage holidays were not holidays, they were deferrals. So guess what? I searched on Twitter for mortgage holidays, and I think under about 50 or in 50 conversations, I didn't say exactly the same thing because I made it very relevant to what they were saying. I chimed in with my bit of a conversation going, look, guys, you need to remember this isn't a mortgage holiday, it's a mortgage deferral, and this is the reason why the terminology is wrong, blah, 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 blah. So you can actually choose the conversations that you want to get involved in. It's like walking into a room and everyone having a sign above their head saying, we are talking about this. And you can choose which conversation you go and enter. And there's no discrimination of, your knowledge base is not high enough because, you don't have to pass a test to write a comment under a post in a Facebook group. You just post it and people will see it. And especially if you don't need to necessarily just engage with the main posts. Like you go into a property group and the host has written blah, 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 blah. You don't have to write a reply to that. You could even just scroll down and you see that somebody else has asked that person a question that you know you can answer. You answer that question. And then you've done two things. You've shown the host that you're knowledgeable on that subject, and you've answered a question for somebody that wanted a question answered. So you're doing so much, and guess what? You're engaging with somebody that's talking about something you want to talk about. So for me, people see it as too much of a chore. Enjoy it. Go in, engage with people, and have these conversations that you want to be having anyway. It's should be pretty. That's pretty basic, isn't it? Really, when you think about it.
100% agree. And so to close out, my final question would be, what is the lasting advice you would give, maybe for someone who hasn't started building their personal brand or business brand on social media? Where do you think they should start?
Get to a position where you post as soon as you possibly can. I have clients who literally I need to sort of do walkthroughs with to just get a business page on Facebook set up, and that's cool. But I always tell them we're just doing the basics to get you to a point where you can post. So do that, and do that as frequently as you can, as often as you can, across as many platforms as you can, and test what you want to do and what you don't. Ask people questions and answer them basically. And that's I think that's the simplest advice that I can give is just get to a point where you're posting as often as you possibly can, and don't be scared that it's crap, because it probably will be, but the audience will decide what's crap and what isn't, and you might be surprised with what actually isn't crap and what people resonate with. I posted a video on YouTube last October, November, and it got 500 views in 2 days, and I was thinking, how? This is probably the worst and most boring video that I've put out for ages, but it did the best. So you're not always going to know. So get stuff out as quickly as you can, across as many platforms as you can. If you're not on every single platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whichever, I've probably forgotten a couple, LinkedIn, just go and get a profile set up on every single one of them, consume what other people are doing in your niche, and try and put as much content out yourself, and just give value. Don't sell to people, just answer questions. Don't worry about giving away free information. No one pays for information anymore. Just give it out and start posting as often as you possibly can. And, whoever shouts loudest gets heard. Be the one that shouts loudest.
That is great. Thanks so much, Sam.
No worries at all.
Sam actually has a new podcast called Game of Loans. So
Yes.
download and subscribe to that wherever you listen to your podcast. It's fantastic. I definitely recommend giving that a listen. And that's kind of the conclusion. You can find me on Instagram at London Property Siblings. And where should they find you, Sam?
Everywhere. Instagram is where I'm probably most active, which is at the Sam Norris, and I share that handle on Twitter and on TikTok as well. So if you're on either of those three, then you can find me there. Facebook, I am facebook.com/Sam Norris Property, and on LinkedIn I think I'm Sam-Norris, and if you search my name and property on YouTube, you will probably find me on there as well. And of course, on those platforms, you'll probably find links at some point to get through to listen to the podcast as well. So and if anyone's got any questions for me, they can find me on any of those channels.
Awesome. Well, thank you for listening, and we look forward to connecting with you on social media.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Thanks, Natalie.